Did you know that laziness can be more destructive than poverty? More limiting than a lack of money? Laziness is silent, yet it can steal dreams, destroy talents, and bury entire destinies. What is most surprising is that many people believe they failed due to bad luck, when in fact they failed because of a lack of discipline. Throughout my life, I have discovered that the greatest enemy of man is not outside him, but within, disguised as comfort. So I ask you, how many times have you betrayed yourself by choosing 5 more minutes in bed instead of taking 5 steps toward your future? Laziness is treacherous. It does not arrive suddenly, like a thief breaking in the middle of the night. No, it approaches slowly, silently, disguised as rest. It is that sweet voice that says, 5 more minutes won't make a difference. But have you noticed how those 5 minutes turn into 15, then 30, and eventually a whole day of missed opportunities? How many times have you promised yourself that you would change your life, but when the moment came to act, you chose the immediate comfort of the bed, the television, or a distraction instead of choosing the future? I have seen this happen with thousands of people. Intelligent men and women with extraordinary talents who could have written their own story of greatness, yet they were deceived by the invisible enemy. What is even more curious is that almost none of them admitted being dominated by laziness. They gave it other names. I'm tired. It's not the right time. I'll wait until I have more clarity. I'll start on Monday. Do you recognize yourself in these phrases? They seem harmless, but they are merely disguises for the same thing: the paralysis that comes from not conquering yourself. Today, modern studies show that more than 70% of people start their day by looking at their phone before even looking at their own purpose. And what do they find there? Negative news, demands, comparisons with other people's lives. How can one expect clarity when the first act of the day is already confusion? How can one expect energy if you surrender your mind to chaos before even putting your body to work? Think with me. How many times have you started your day putting out fires, running after the clock, reacting to the world, and ended the night feeling that you lived a lot but produced little? Laziness is not just lying down doing nothing. Laziness is also living on autopilot. It is waking up without intention, just to fulfill obligations. It is getting up because bills must be paid, not because you have a purpose. And it is precisely there that life begins to slip through your fingers. The body rises, but the soul remains lying down. The mind moves, but the heart stays trapped. Have you ever felt this? As if the days were a tiresome repetition, without shine, without novelty? This is the mark of someone who has not yet conquered laziness. In my research, I personally encountered brilliant men who lost fortunes, not due to bad luck, but because they lacked the discipline to get up and act. I also met young people who dreamed of changing the world, yet let their dreams die with every snooze of the alarm clock. Because the truth is this: every time you choose laziness, you are telling yourself that your future is not worth it. But there is a different path. It is not necessary to take a giant leap, nor to turn your life upside down in a single day. It is enough to start small, but start with intention. Imagine if tomorrow, instead of negotiating with the alarm clock, you simply got up and gave yourself 10 minutes of silence. 10 minutes to breathe, to organize your mind, to remember who you are and what really matters. It seems little, but it is precisely in these small spaces that chaos dissolves and clarity is born. You don't need to wait to feel motivated. In fact, motivation is a consequence of action, not the cause. How many times have you skipped training, studying, or working on a project because you didn't feel like it? And how many times, when you finally started, did you find that the desire appeared during the process? This is no coincidence. It is proof that laziness only has power while you are standing still. The moment you rise and act, it loses its strength. I ask you, how many dreams have been left behind because you believed the lie that you had no energy? How many times have you told yourself you would do it tomorrow, and when tomorrow came, postponed it again? How long will you accept this negotiation with failure? The greatest truth I have learned is that no one loses to the world before losing to themselves. Failure does not begin outside. It begins within. And the first battlefield is the morning. If you conquer laziness the moment you open your eyes, you are already proving to yourself that you can succeed in any other area of life. That is why I insist. Do not see laziness as trivial. See it as a thief of destiny, because that is what it is. And every time you overcome it, even in a simple gesture like getting out of bed without hesitation, you are rebuilding your identity. You are telling your brain, I am greater than my weak instincts. And believe me, this silent declaration has the power to change everything. Now tell me, when the alarm rings tomorrow, will you surrender once again? Or will you choose to prove to yourself that you are greater than laziness? Many people believe discipline is a form of prison, as if it were a chain preventing them from living freely. But I have learned, through decades of observation and study, that discipline is not prison. Discipline is freedom. True slavery is not in waking up early or maintaining a strict routine, but in being a captive of your own impulses, bad habits, and fleeting desires that destroy great dreams. Think with me. How many times have you felt trapped in debt, in toxic relationships, or in a job you cannot bear, all simply because you lack the discipline to plan and act? How can you say no at the right moment? When I had the opportunity to speak with men who built empires, I realized that none of them relied on luck. What they all had in common was an unwavering sense of discipline. For example, Thomas Edison did not become a great inventor because he had better ideas than others. He became a giant because, while many rested, he worked. While others gave up in the face of failure, he persisted. It took thousands of failed attempts before the light bulb finally lit, but it was discipline that carried him all the way to the end. Now tell me, how many brilliant ideas have passed through your mind and been abandoned simply because you lack the discipline to persist? Discipline is what turns desire into reality. Dreaming is easy. Everyone dreams. But how many have the courage to repeat every day the small actions that bring the dream closer to reality? Discipline is waking up early even when your body wants to sleep more. It is saving money when everything around you shouts to spend. It is studying when it would be more comfortable to distract yourself. Do you think this is difficult? I say, difficult is living trapped in the regret of never having tried. Recent research shows that disciplined people not only achieve greater material results, but also experience higher levels of happiness and well-being. This may seem contradictory, as most people think that happiness lies in doing only what one wants. But have you noticed how you feel after giving in to laziness? Perhaps a momentary relief, but soon after comes frustration and guilt. Now compare that with the feeling of completing an important task, even when you do not feel like it. The fatigue exists, but along with it comes pride, clarity, and the certainty that you are moving forward. Which of the two brings true peace? This is exactly what you need to understand. Discipline is not suffering, it is an investment. Every disciplined act is like depositing into an invisible bank account that will one day return multiplied in the form of achievements. Every time you say no to laziness and yes to action, you are accumulating wealth, not only financial but also emotional, spiritual, and mental. I know that many listening now are thinking, but I can't, I've tried and failed. I tell you, you have not failed, you just gave up too soon. Discipline is not built in a single day. It is like a muscle. No one enters a gym and immediately lifts 100 kilograms. First, you lift 5, then 10, then 20. The same applies to the mind. If you cannot be disciplined for an hour, start with 10 minutes. If you cannot maintain a habit for a month, maintain it for 3 days. Victory lies in progress, not in perfection. I want to suggest something simple. Try waking up just 30 minutes earlier for the next 7 days. Use that time for something that nourishes your mind or body. Read a few pages of a good book, pray, write your goals, move your body. At first, your body will resist, your mind will complain, but by the end of the first week, you will feel something different. It will not just be pride for completing a challenge. It will be clarity. It will be strength. You will have proven to yourself that you can overcome internal resistance. And remember, every act of discipline builds confidence. Confidence in yourself. Confidence that you can do what you said you would. This confidence opens doors. Because the world first believes in those who already believe in themselves. And believing in yourself is not just repeating motivational phrases. It is acting. It is showing your mind, with daily evidence, that you are greater than your fears and excuses. I have never met a truly free man who was not disciplined. And I have never met a lazy person who was truly happy. The lazy may laugh today, but tomorrow they cry silently over what they did not achieve. The disciplined may suffer now, but sooner or later they reap the rewards that make every sacrifice worthwhile. So I ask you, do you prefer the invisible prison of laziness or the freedom earned through discipline? When I began writing Think and Grow Rich, there were days when fear overwhelmed me. I asked myself, will anyone believe my words? Will my ideas be accepted? Or am I just wasting my time? There were moments when doubt felt heavier than the work itself. But it was precisely on those days that I decided to get up before sunrise, sit in silence, and write, even without motivation, even without inspiration. In the quiet of the morning, when the world was still asleep, my mind opened, and my ideas came to life. If I had waited for the perfect moment, if I had given in to the comfort of laziness, perhaps the book that changed millions of lives would never have existed. This is the power of the morning over the mind. It is there, in the first hour of the day, that you have the opportunity to shape your thoughts before the world invades them. It is when you can choose to feed your mind with faith, clarity, and purpose instead of distractions, negative news, and comparisons that drain your energy. Have you noticed that when the day begins in chaos, it seems that everything throughout it also becomes chaotic? This is no coincidence. Modern studies show that the first minutes of the day determine your emotional state for the next 12 hours. In other words, if you wake up in chaos, you live in chaos. If you wake up with intention, you live with direction. You may be thinking now, but I don't have the energy for this, my life is too messy. I understand that feeling. But that is exactly why this small act of rising consciously is so transformative. Because it is not the world that must calm first for you to gain clarity. It is you who must calm first so that the world can follow. When you look around, it becomes clear how important order and structure are. I have witnessed this countless times. People living without direction, trapped in debt, in broken relationships, in jobs they hated, simply because they spent their days reacting instead of consciously deciding how they wanted to live their lives. Everything began to change when they decided to win the first battle, the morning battle. I met a man who, after years of financial failure, made a simple decision to wake up 1 hour earlier every day to study and organize his plans. Within a few years, he went from bankruptcy to building a life of prosperity. It was not a stroke of luck. He won because he changed his mind before the day began. You might now think, but that's too small. How can waking up half an hour earlier change someone's life? I tell you, that is exactly the secret. True transformation does not start with grand gestures, but with small, consistent practices. When you decide to get up and give your mind the right nourishment, you are building a new identity. You stop being someone who merely reacts and become someone who chooses. And when this choice is made every day, quietly, and with discipline, the results become inevitable. Remember, the mind is like a garden. If you plant nothing early in the day, it will be overrun by weeds throughout the day. But if you start by planting clarity, faith, and purpose, everything that happens afterward will flourish from that foundation. Imagine for a moment how your life would be if, instead of rushing out of bed, you awoke in silence, took a deep breath, gave thanks, and declared who you are and what you wish to create. Imagine the strength you would carry throughout the day if you had already decided from the start who is in charge. You, not the circumstances. And here I want to ask you a direct question. How many opportunities have already passed you by simply because your mind was too confused to see them? How many relationships were lost? How many doors closed? How many dreams remained on paper because you started your day not with clarity, but with haste, anxiety, and distraction? Life is not defined by isolated, grand moments. It is shaped by what you choose to repeat every day. The most powerful choice you can make is to take control of your morning. When you master the first hour, you master your mind. And when you master your mind, no external obstacle can defeat you. Laziness is not merely the absence of movement. It is the silent sabotage of identity. When you give in to it, you are not just losing minutes of your day, you are weakening your belief in your own capability and reinforcing the idea that you have no control. Every time you choose laziness, even in small things, you are training your mind to accept less than you deserve. That is why I say, it's not just about getting out of bed or postponing a task. It is about deciding who you are becoming. I have seen brilliant people destroy entire careers because they could not overcome this enemy. Take the example of Mike Tyson, an extraordinary talent, one of the greatest boxers of all time. But what happened? Lack of discipline, addictions, and the inability to control himself destroyed what could have been the greatest career in sports history. He did not lose for lack of talent. He lost because he could not conquer his own weaknesses. And I ask you, how many Mike Tysons exist outside the ring? People with incredible gifts, yet who bury those talents every day because they cannot overcome laziness, fear, or indiscipline. Perhaps you too have a hidden talent that has never seen the light of day because it is hidden behind excuses. Transformation does not happen when you merely dream. It happens when you act, even against your own will. In that clash between internal resistance and firm decision, a new identity is born. When you get out of bed without negotiation, when you fulfill what you promised yourself, you send a powerful message to your brain. I am reliable. I do what I say I will do. This self-trust is what builds great destinies. Laziness, on the other hand, sends the opposite message. I cannot trust myself. And so self-esteem collapses, not because of great failures, but because of daily small abandonments. You might think no one sees when you procrastinate, when you postpone what should be done today until tomorrow. But your subconscious observes every choice. It records every surrender and begins to treat you as someone undeserving of victory. Now imagine the impact of repeating this message every day for years. This is why so many people remain trapped in a cycle of failure. It is not the world that limits them. It is the identity they themselves build through indiscipline. But the good news is that the opposite is also true. Every time you act with discipline, every time you overcome laziness, you strengthen your identity as a winner. You prove yourself capable. You rewrite your story. You do not need grand gestures. It is enough to start small. Every morning, when the alarm rings, you have a choice. Continue feeding the weak version of yourself, or give space to the strong version, the version born to lead, to create, to prosper. It is in this moment, in this seemingly small detail, that destinies are decided. I know no other path. Every great man I have interviewed, every person who built fortunes and legacies, had one thing in common: the discipline to get up and take action when no one forced them. They did not wait for motivation, nor for the world to push them. They decided who they were and proved it through action. That is why I affirm, discipline is not just a habit, it is an act of identity. And now I ask you directly, when laziness knocks at your door, will you open it, or will you be the one who takes control? Door, who will you choose to be? The one who hides behind excuses, or the one who rises to build something? Because in the end, it's not about having more time, more luck, or more opportunities. It's about proving, every single day, that you are greater than laziness. If there is one thing you need to remember from everything I've said so far, it's that overcoming laziness is not just about waking up early or completing tasks. It's about proving to yourself that you are capable of mastering your mind and building a strong identity. That is the true victory, the conquest over yourself. And since you've made it this far, I want to invite you to continue this journey. The next video appearing on the screen will take you one step higher, advancing your growth, so that you become 1% better than you are right now. I thank you for staying with me up to this moment, and I want you to know, I will be waiting for you in the next video.